Hello and welcome to Puddle Glum's Music Collection. My name is Marty Phillips. We're doing the vinyl tag for 2020 for the vinyl community. Today I'm going to go through this list and we're going to name off some things that were tagged for the vinyl community. So my best find for 2019 I think was Emerson, Lake and Palmer's Works. And this one was like 50 cents. The album itself is in mint condition. I don't know why it was in the dollar bin for 50 cents, but I got it. It's a double album. Actually, it's it's 4 albums. So this is 4 albums. I'm sorry, it's 2 albums with 4 sides. I don't know. I haven't had enough coffee this morning, but yeah, it is 2 albums, and then but it was like 50 cents, and everything's in mint condition. My favorite album of 2019, this was a hard one. I liked quite a few, but it came down to Flying Colors and Third Degree. Flying Colors has Neil Morris from Neil Morris Band. It has Steve Morris. It has Dream Theater former Dream Theater drummer Mike Portnoy. Also has Dave LaRue, that has worked with Steve Morris quite a bit. Steve Morris with the Deep Purple, Dixie Dregs, and others. And then also Casey McPherson. So this is, it's kind of prog, it's kind of alternative, it's kind of Beatle-y, it's all sorts of stuff. Really like it. They really put on a great show too, live. The next one we got is a novelty record, which I do not have. I might have one somewhere, I'm not sure, but I didn't see any. The kind of person I am, you'd think would have a novelty record, but I don't. And if I do, I couldn't find any. So homage cover for a band that kind of took a cover from another band, paid homage to it with their cover. I'm thinking, now you got to know that I was raised different than a lot of you. I was raised in the Christian music industry. You know, as I said, you got to label stuff before and past shows here. But I grew up in what they called the Jesus movement, when a lot of the hippies and different people from that area became Christians, and they were putting out music with their style. And then it later became the Christian contemporary music industry. But in the past, you know, if you dig, there's a lot of bands that sound great. You know, if you're not familiar, I suggest you dig into these things. One of these is DeGarmo & Key. Now, DeGarmo & Key, the first 3 or 4 albums were a lot rockier. They became more softer later on and then got back into rock. But this is their double live album, No Turning Back, DeGarmo & Key. There's even some Allman Brothers type moments on here, some good rock and roll moments. So this is DeGarmo & Key, No Turning Back, a double live album. Now with this group, I feel like they took this cover and kind of borrowed it from ELO, which very similar covers. I think they borrowed that from the ELO New World record, but ELO uses this quite a bit. Alright, coming up next is my favorite B-side deep cut. I don't know if there's even any B-side deep cuts. So this is such a famous album, one of 2 famous Kansas albums that sold millions. But Cheyenne Anthem, I always liked it on here. It never was a hit. Cheyenne Anthem from Kansas Leftoverture. That's my B-side. Something Funky. I got some Stevie Wonder. I got a few Stevie Wonder albums. He's a little funky. And I like Adam Again too. Adam Again is a band that came out later that has a lot of funk to a lot of their music. But Stevie Wonder, Fulfillment's first finale. So this is the one I picked for my great album. I like all his albums, but that's a good one. Odd Bedfellows in there, as far as like weird shelf buddies. So this is the weirdest shelf buddies I have, maybe, because I'm eclectic and I like lots of music. We have the Christian group that was a quartet back in the day that did some stuff with Elvis. Later became quite a big in the Christian market, is the Imperials. This is the Imperials, Heed the Call. So there they are with Russ Taff. Right next to Iron Maiden. And this is the Iron Maiden collection here of Somewhere Back in Time. I usually don't buy picture discs, but this was pretty cheap. And so we got the picture disc here. We got a couple albums here. It's a double album. It has a lot of stuff on it. A lot of best of, some live stuff. They actually made a DVD Blu-ray from this, I believe, that tour. And documentary. Iron Maiden, Somewhere Back in Time. So those are the two odd bedfellows there. Imperials and Iron Maiden. Think you'd agree? Those are odd. Alright. Okay, I was there, a band I've seen live. A lot of them back there. I picked a Galactic Cowboys. This is the latest Galactic Cowboys release from a few years ago. Galactic Cowboys, a long way back to the moon, but I went to see this band a few times, especially in Chicago. I've seen this band, little bar in the basement. I don't know, might have held 200, maybe 300 people at the most. Place was packed, they were right in front of us. It sounded amazing, and the energy was just off the charts. Galactic Cowboys, I chose between this and King's X, which I've seen live a number of times too. But man, still remember that show. Okay, now we have a, wish I had the original, but I have a repress. That would be AC/DC Back in Black. We all know this album from 1980. This is a repress. The repress just sounds a little different. It's more hot, and I like the old, the first release from Back in Black. It just sounded warmer to me, and I just like the sound of it better. But yeah, I settled for this. Maybe someday I'll get the other one. Let's see. Discography of you own of an artist, the whole discography. I own quite a bit of different ones, but I picked Resurrection Band. Resurrection Band put out quite a few albums. I have every one of them, either on album or CD, because some of their stuff was not released on vinyl. But this is their first album, Resurrection Band, Awaiting Your Reply. Started in '72, didn't get an album out till later because this kind of music was not accepted in the church. This was a group of Christians, one of the first bands to ever do like Black Sabbath, Led Zeppelin, Jefferson Airplane type music, the genre. This album especially is very Led Zeppelin, Sabbath influenced. This is Resurrection Band, Waiting to Reply. So I have everything from them because I grew up with them as a kid. Because they were the hardest band out there that were Christians that were on the scene at the time. Let's see. My next one is Unique Center Label. I would say, once again, it's the Edgar Key. I have a couple. I also have a Larry Norman with the White Verve label. I know there's more back there. I just couldn't remember what I have. I have like, 800 records or something, so I couldn't read. Anyway, so this is the Power Disc label. This is this is a special edition that only so many were put out, so they have it numbered on the label. So this is number 4,304. So if you do I guess back then if you did 10,000, it was a special edition. So those were the days when you still bought albums, Now if you sell 10,000 albums, woo, you're huge. Alrighty. Number 11 was that pre-band album or band that featured someone who went on to be famous. I picked out Mylan. This is like 1970 or 71, I think this came out. Mylan, which later became, Mylon Lefevre. The guys in his band then later became, there's the back with all the guys from Mylan. Mon Lefebvre went on to become he was pretty big himself for a little bit. I mean, he never got huge. But then he became really big in the Christian music industry later. He's one of the first bands in the very early 70s to combine Christian music with rock and roll. But he was doing a lot of drugs then and everything. So later he got clean and then he continued in the Christian music industry. But yeah, this is 1970. These guys later became, his band, later became Atlanta Rhythm Section. So that's where that came from. Alrighty, book I think is next, or a video. Musical book or movie I would recommend. There's a few books. One of them is Kerry Livgren's Seeds of Change, which I no longer have. Another one I have, but it's on my book, my e-book. It's kind of hard to show. Is Eddie DeGarmo's new book, Ed DeGarmo. So if you look up Ed DeGarmo, get his new book. Or if you can find Kerry Livgren's Seeds of Change book, get that. Kerry Livgren was the musician from Kansas who wrote all their biggest hits, you know. And speaking of Kansas, that's the next one here too. Underrated album, I think, is Kansas Monolith. Came out after their two huge albums. This came out and didn't do very well at all. I mean, it did okay. I think it might have gone up platinum now, but this is not high on their discography for people, a lot of people. But Monolith was a very underrated album. I like it just as much as any of the other big Kansas albums. Alrighty. And then batting average of an artist or band who consistently makes a good album. To me, that's Joe Bonamassa. Joe Bonamassa continually makes good albums. Even as a lot of his live albums are different. He does different stuff with them. This is Joe Bonamassa, Redemption, that came out in 2018. Another home run. So far, I think the guy can do no wrong with his albums or albums he does with other people. Like Black Country Communion or, you know, the ones he does with vocalist Hart. But Beth Hart. The next one was same album, different cover. Now, what I have vinyl-wise for that is, unfortunately, or fortunately, however you want to look at it, Ron Haggerty's page of his, you know, album Sanctuary there. He did the To Hell with the Devil one, which I have, which I was going to do, but then I was like, oh, he's doing that, but I'll show him anyway. To Hell with the Devil, the original, and then To Hell with the Devil. There's a big controversy in some Facebook groups whether this album cover was changed because the Christian market didn't accept it because there's a pentagram up there. They're ripping off the devil, and then they changed it to this. Or some people just say, oh, this was just something they were going to put out for a little while to sell, and it was just a collective edition. So there is a little bit of a controversy with that. I personally think it was Benson Records from the Christian market changing it. But what I'm doing is the Bob Dylan one. I don't have the original record. I mean, I have the original cover here from Bob Dylan Saved. And I know they re-released it with a different cover, but I have that on CD right here. That's the cover they changed it from Bob Dylan Saved, from that to that. From this. So, Bob Dylan, same album, different cover. Favorite drummer. I think that's up next. Wow, that was a hard one. Favorite drummer. Oh, it's an album you bought cheap that is not worth money. That's the next one. I don't even remember. I bought lots of albums cheap. Probably some of them are worth something. I do know that Ty Tabor gave this to me, King's X Building Blocks, which is a best of a lot of the Atlanta albums. Ty Tabor gave this to me for free. I'm sure it's worth something now. But I'm sure I have a lot of stuff in there worth something. Favorite drummer. Now it's favorite drummer. I don't know. I like all these drummers. They're all great. I picked Billy Cobbin from Miles Davis and Mahavishnu Orchestra. Billy Cobbin. Here's Spectrum. Great album with that one. So I picked Billy Cobbin, but I like so many drummers. I don't know where to begin. And let's see. One is turning 20. I have nothing from 2000. I mean, I might in there, but everywhere I looked, I could not see anything from 2000. Not very many albums were made in 2000. I'm sure they were, but I'm sure stuff was re-released from that period, but I don't think I have any. A trilogy. 3 albums that are a trilogy that are good. Right here is a Larry Norman trilogy. This is even called the trilogy. 3 albums he put out. This first one is on Verve. That was also put out on his label Solid Rock Records later. Only Visiting This Planet. I think this is 71 or 72, 1972. Only Visiting the Planet. This is a Trifold Gate cover. If I took it out, it'd be trifold. On the Verve label. So it opens up 3 ways there. So there you go. And then the second one was So Long Ago the Garden. That was the second one. And the third one was Larry Norman In Another Land, which was put out on his label Solid Rock. This one was put out on MGM and also on his label. And then this one was put out on Solid Rock, In Another Land. So Only Visiting This Planet, So Long Ago the Garden, In Another Land. The Larry Norman Trilogy, if you haven't heard those, you should hear them. Those are 3 great albums. So there we go. There's my tags from 2020. I hope the rest of your year is great. And we'll see you again. Adios.